You know, the Atari is pretty cool. But what if I told you there was a console so smart, it was actually advertised as intelligent? Yeah, that must have been before lying and advertising was illegal. The video game craze was kind of obvious, so a lot of companies started to make their own video games. Mattel was one of them. Yep, the same company that made Hot Wheels and Barbies, you know? So, they made the Intelligent Television. Well, they also realized it was a stupid name, so they just nicknamed it the Intellivision. So they test marketed it in 1979, and they officially released it nationwide in 1980. Now, would I say it did as well as the Atari? No, this thing flopped compared to the Atari, but considering that Mattel hasn't done anything video game related before this, I'd say they did pretty good. 3 million units sold. One thing that pissed me off about the Atari is that the RF cable was built into the system, right? Well, the Intellivision doesn't have that. Instead, they did it with the power cable. Where does the game go? Well, I'll tell you where. It goes on the side. Why? I don't fucking know. I want to know what they were smoking when they came up with that design decision. You gotta be fucking kidding me. Ugh. This is stupid. Ah! God, turn that shit off. Well, safe to assume my sound chip's broken. Well, you can't expect too much from old technology. Especially one that claims to be intelligent. Keyword claims, because an intelligent console wouldn't use controllers like this! And, you know, I would give it a pass, kind of like the 5200. But this is the one that started that trend! Why? Well, you can tell just by looking at it that it's better than the 2600. But everybody has a 2600, so it doesn't really matter. Also, the controls suck ass. If you really want to know why the controls suck ass, it's because this fucking circle pad. What is it? I don't know. It's a fucking circle pad. That also works as a button. I don't know. It's uncomfortable, and it's kind of a piece of shit. When people say the 2600 joystick is bad, I laugh, because when they say that, they've never played an Intellivision before. Now, before you say, oh, you don't know shit about Intellivision because you only own Donkey Kong. Before you say that, I used to own 35 games for this thing, which might not sound like a lot, but it wasn't too bad. It was a good range of games. They all sucked! They were all confusing as fuck, and they weren't fun! Atari isn't confusing, and they're fun! No wonder this thing flopped. Just like every other video game console, in 1983, stocks dropped like crazy. Now, unlike other companies, Mattel thought it'd be a good idea to pull out of the video game market, so they sold the Intellivision brand. And the reason I say that is a smart thing, Mattel is still a company today. Other companies that existed that made video games that didn't pull out, usually, most of them don't exist. Like Coleco. Coleco went bankrupt because of the video game crash. The company that made the Vectrex went bankrupt because of that. Either that or they were sold to Hasbro, I don't remember. But either way, the companies don't exist anymore. Atari barely exists, and Atari never recovered from the video game crash. Mattel did, because they pulled out at the right time. So they sold the Intellivision brand to some guy, and all the way through the NES life, he re-released games and re-released the console. That's why we got the Intellivision 3 and the Sport model. I used to own an Intellivision 3, and I can say for a fact that that sucked. That console sucked. So, Do I recommend it in television? The fuck do you think? No, I don't. The Atari 2600 is such a better console. I'm not saying the 2600 is great because it does not hold up today, but it's better than this because the games are actually fun on the 2600. Really, the only reason I can see buying a television anymore is if you're a collector like me, and maybe it's interesting to you. And I mean, I can share you my story on it. I got the 2600 a couple months before I got my Intellivision, right? So I was super excited. Oh my gosh, I got an Intellivision. I love the Atari, so I can't wait to get an Intellivision. I was disappointed. So much so that I actually sold my games for it. I don't do that with any other console. Pretty cool piece of gaming history, but I don't really recommend buying one nowadays.